What's going on, friends? Today we're going to be talking about some more Chrono Odyssey. I actually had a chance to play the game. The developers invited me to a preview event a couple weeks ago, give me some hands-on experience with Chrono Odyssey, and today I want to specifically talk about the gearing, progression, crafting systems, basically how you get good stuff in this game. Now, some quick disclaimers. The first one, I've seen a bunch of people speculating that these videos from various YouTubers and streamers are sponsored. There was no sponsorship, at least I wasn't given any money to produce these videos, so no hashtag ad here. That being said, this video, we're just going to be talking objectively about the systems. I'm not going to be giving, like, oh, it's amazing or it's really bad. I'm just going to be talking about how they literally work. You guys can form your own opinions. If you are interested in my overall review of the game, that is something that I want to put out later on, maybe after the beta. So if you're interested in that, hit the subscribe button. But yeah, no hashtag ad. Also, one other thing, it's been brought to my attention that the version of the game that I played and what we're going to get to play on the 20th of June is actually like an inferior version of the game compared to what is actually available for certain game journalists like IGN, for example. You guys might have seen the IGN video. If you haven't, I'll be showing some footage on the screen here. And then if you contrast it to the footage that I recorded, the game looks a lot better in the IGN video and a lot worse in most of the YouTubers' videos. Why exactly the devs had us playing this seemingly crappier version of the game, I don't know, but that is all I've got to talk about. That's what I had a chance to play, and this is what we're going to be playing on the 20th of June. But with all that yapping out of the way, let's actually talk about the gearing and progression in Chrono Odyssey. How do you get good items? What does gearing look like in this game? Let's go. And as always, you'll be able to scrub along if there's a particular area of this game that you're interested in. Scrub along down below. Let's do it, friends. Let's go. Now, in order to establish a baseline or some context for what options you have when it comes to character improvement and progression, let's open up our inventory and take a look at our equipment slots. From here, you can see we have 2 weapon slots, 6 armor slots, a helmet, chest, gloves, legs, boots, and back, and then we have 4 accessory slots for 2 rings, a belt, and a necklace. Adding up all of the equipment gear score of these and then dividing by the total number, 12, will get you to your average equipment score. Whether there is weighting, like if the weapons are worth more than the armor or jewelry, I don't know at this point in time. And of course, you can see under your average equipment score, you also have your stats. We have strength, dexterity, intellect, wisdom, vitality, and then we have attack, physical defense, and magical defense. There are actually a lot more subcategories into this. If we open up the details tab, I don't know if we have footage of that. You have your incoming healing, outgoing healing, crit, tons of other attributes as well. One thing that is important to note in this game is weapons don't exclusively scale off of one stat. So in like New World, for example, if you're playing with the Great Axe, only strength is going to affect that. This is more akin to something like Throne and Liberty, where stats are useful across all weapons, but you still want to focus on vitality if you want to be tankier, for example. One of the things that I learned fairly early on is your secondary weapon. Even if you don't plan to use it, it's still good to have it upgraded because the attributes it provides will still be effective even when it's on your back. So, trying to keep both of your weapons leveled up and of a good rarity. That is important for your overall character's power level and your average equipment score. Equipment score is something that's referenced when you're entering dungeons, for example. They'll have a recommended equipment score. I believe if you're below that, the enemies are going to do more damage, or they'll do more damage to you, you'll do less damage to them, and then if you're above the equipment score, it makes it just a little bit easier. So it is an important metric to follow. I don't believe it completely locks you out of content, but it is still something that's going to, give you an idea of how powerful your character is. One of the metric of power, or way to tell, how good of gear you have, is the rarity. This game follows the similar rarity system that we see in many other MMOs these days. You have gray, and then green, and then blue, and then purple, and then orange. Orange being legendary, purple epic. You guys get the idea. As you move higher up in the tiers, you're more likely to see gem sockets in weapons. Weapons can have the little socket, which you can put gems into. All equipment also has different stat lines. So you have attributes, and these can be a mix of different things. So you can have like the cleric or the barbarian. Cleric, for example, might be like wisdom and vitality. Barbarian might be strength and vitality. You can get different combinations of these, or you can get things that are just one specific stat. On top of that, items also have perks as well. You'll get more perk slots on higher rarity items. So blue items will have more perks available to them than green items. Gray items, I don't believe, have any perks currently. And you guys get the idea. As you move up in the rarity, you're going to get more perk slots. Again, this is a system that's very similar to what you would see in New World, for example. And then on top of this, we also have other ways to measure our character's power level. That is through weapon mastery points that you have. Obviously, the more weapon mastery you have, the more abilities and just generally the stronger your weapon's going to be. And then you also have your Chrono Tactor. Your Chrono Tactor, you can advance this and unlock different abilities by killing the Chrono Gate bosses. So as you move, it's not really the main storyline, but they call it an epic quest. So as you progress through the epic quest and kill more Chrono bosses, you'll unlock Chrono Tactor abilities. However, if you want to upgrade the ability skill trees, you will need to find beacons of time. This is all done through open world exploration and completing these labyrinths, I think is what they call them. So yeah, your Chrono Tactor is a way to measure your character's power level to some degree. More powerful Chrono Tactor, more powerful Chrono abilities, which definitely have an impact on combat. Then you have your Weapon Mastery. Obviously, Weapon Mastery doesn't make the weapon stronger per se, but more abilities and more passive definitely will. And then you have your character's equipment. As you can see here, this is through the form of perks and attributes, the rarity of the item, the equipment gear score of the item. Yeah, you guys get the idea. I think that's a good overview of different ways to improve your character's power level. Outside of this, I'm currently not aware of any other ways that you can give your character more power, at least in the Chrono Odyssey upcoming beta. Actually, I just realized I did lie. There are one other way that you can get extra power, and there are these potions that you can consume. So there are these potions that give you a permanent stat increase. So far, I've found these to be rewarded through open world exploration. There was this little trial thing that I could do off in a cave somewhere. Upon completing the trials, I would earn a currency, and then I could spend the currency just one time in the shop to get these potions, which would give me like a permanent increase to my damage, a very small amount, or a permanent increase to my HP, and again by a very small amount. Now, after completing the tutorial and getting sent back in time, you'll have a very crappy gray set of armor. You'll also be missing like your gloves and your boots. But you can get some very basic upgrades just by doing some quests in Chrono Odyssey. Now, I didn't actually find questing to be an immense source of gear. A lot of my upgrades came from crafting and gathering and just open world exploration. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But there are some basic upgrades you can make just by doing the first few initial quests on the starting beach. There is also a quest that you can pick up from an NPC to go and collect tokens from fallen soldiers, and then you can trade in the tokens for a set of green armor, which is definitely something I would recommend if you just want a little power boost at the start of the game. Outside of these basic quests, one of the best ways I found to improve my character's level in Chrono Odyssey, especially in the early game, was through crafting and gathering. The crafting and gathering systems allow you to make a full set of gear, including some pieces that I wasn't able to find from questing or just drops, like the back or the cape, for example, and then also all of my accessories, rings, amulets, earrings. I was able to make all of these, which definitely improved my character's power level, and it's something I'm going to recommend you guys do, unless you want the extreme challenge, like trying to take down the first Chrono boss, the 1000-fold Piercer. I did this while I was undergeared and underleveled, and it was very difficult. So gearing and keeping your character's power level, your equipment score, like up to what the game expects, I think is something that's going to be very important if you don't want to have just an absolute brutal time. And to that extent, I would recommend engaging with Chrono Odyssey's crafting and gathering system, so let's briefly talk about how it works, shall we? So crafting and gathering comes in 3 stages. You have gathering, getting the raw resources, then you have refining, turning them into leather or linen or ingots, and then you have the actual crafting, where you take the leather, linen, ingots, and make them into items. The gathering system does require one caveat. You have to have a set of tools. If you want to be able to chop down trees, you need a logging axe. You want to mine things, you need a pickaxe. You want to skin things, you need a butcher's knife. You guys get the idea. You can buy these from an NPC in one of the starting towns, or I believe you can just craft a basic set for yourself with like twigs and flint that you can pick up on the ground without tools. Now, one thing that's interesting about Chrono Odyssey is you can gather anything at any level. So if I compare this to something like New World, if I want to chop down an ironwood tree, I'll need to have at least 150, I think it's 150 levels into logging. Whereas in this game, you can chop down the highest tier trees straight from the get-go, but it is going to take a very, very, very long time. If you want it to take less time, you either need to get higher tier tools, or you just need to work on your logging. Chop down more trees, get a higher logging level, then you'll be able to gather resources faster. Resources come in different tiers. You'll have young trees, then mature trees, then you'll have redwood trees, then you'll have arch trees. I believe arch is currently the highest tier, like the blue materials. You find the relevant materials on the map. Again, you can gather them anywhere, just need to do some exploration. You take them back to the processing station, and then you can refine them into goods. At the start, you'll just be making iron ingots, silver ingots, basic leather, I can't actually remember the name of it, and like the basic linen as well. And as you want to move up into the tiers of higher tier gear, again, you'll need to go find the higher tier resources. This is all pretty straightforward though. It's a very nice, simple system. And again, for those of you who have played New World, it's very similar to how it works in New World. From here, you have 3 different crafting stations. You can go to the weapon crafting station, armor crafting station, or the accessory crafting station. And you guys might be able to put 2 and 2 together. Weapons at the weapon, armor at armor, accessories, your rings, amulets, earrings, you can make them at the accessory station. Now, one thing to note with crafting is, as far as I can tell, there is no way to limit the RNG that you get on items. So there is an element of randomness. When you make an item, it will be assigned random attributes. So you might get strength and dexterity, or you might get wisdom and intellect, for example. As we covered in the previous section, the stats aren't like going to cripple you. It's like if you get wisdom and intellect, you're playing a berserker, you still can use those stats to increase your crit chance and stuff like that, for example. But again, strength or vitality probably would be your priority as a berserker, but no stats are completely useless. It's not as if weapons only scale off of one thing, like they do in New World, for example. Another element of randomness when it comes to the item is you're going to be rolling in an equipment score range, so like 5 to 10 for the beginning levels, and then 10 to 15. So if you roll high, then obviously you get the higher gear score, roll low, then you get the lower gear score. And finally, you also have the perks as well. There's a ton of different perks in this game from what I've seen. Some are PvP only. There are some perks that are just pretty straightforward, like a damage reduction. And then there are other perks that are more active, like when you swap weapons, you get extra stamina or you get a movement speed increase. So yeah, you've got like active perks, you've got static perks, you have perks that are only available in PvP. So quite a lot of randomness when it comes to crafting these items. But my experience was getting the materials was very easy. It wasn't quite, challenging, other than it just takes a little bit of time to get them. So doing those tool upgrades is something else I recommend. But yeah, the crafting and gathering system, very easy to understand. I think the only element that was new to me was the introduction of a resource called Arch. This was just an additional kind of token that you would get when you were gathering. So every time I would chop down a tree or skin something, I would get a little bit of Arch, and I would get higher tiers of Arch if I was going for a higher tier resource. So if I was mining a titanium ore, for example, or if I was mining a meteorite node, then I would get higher tier Arch. And you just need this Arch, again, to craft goods. But it didn't really seem to be a bottleneck. I guess it was just there to make sure that you did do some degree of crafting, or that, crafters could just gather and gather and gather and then sell their excess Arch. If you just want to be like a gather and refine bot and you don't actually want to craft items for whatever reason, you could sell your excess Arch to other players. But yeah, that was the only system. Crafting very straightforward, just quite a lot of RNG involved in it. And as far as aware, there's no current way to limit that RNG, at least in the beta. Really quickly on this crafting section, just wanted to add, you can craft from your storage shed. So those of you who are worried you need to carry everything on your person, you can chuck stuff in your storage shed, you can refine and craft from there. So great quality of life. Also, there are perks specific to gathering, for example. So I found a perk on my amulet that it will allow me to gather extra ore. So after I hit a node and finish mining it, for the next 30 seconds, I would have increased mining luck, or I'd have increased mining quantity, or get a movement speed increase. So perks specific for gatherers definitely seem to be something that you would want to aim on. These would mainly come on the belt and on the necklace slot. Also with crafting, there are recipes that you can find as well. So there are going to be recipes that you'll get from chests, killing bosses, etc. These rare recipes allow you to make purple items at a lower tier than normal. So I found these ancestral gloves, ancestral boots, I think there was even ancestral axes. Normally purple tier items, or at least like what I had available through crafting, wouldn't be available until tier 4 or level 20, but I was able to find some purple gloves at level 15 through this recipe system, so that was pretty cool. Whether it was a one-time use on the recipe, or you could use it as many times as you want, not entirely sure, but I thought this would definitely be something that you guys would be interested in. Now, whilst you're in town crafting, it's good to know that there are a few other NPCs you'll want to become familiar with in order to make character improvements with your gear. The first one, not so much an improvement, but definitely good to know about, is the salvage NPC. So talking to this lady, she'll let you break down any gear that you don't want into its raw components. So if you're rotating out an old set of gear, or if you just get a bunch of junk from a dungeon run, you can salvage it into leather, ingots, arch, etc. You guys get the idea, and then craft with it. Just to the left of this NPC is somebody that will let you transfer perks from one item to another. So if you find a new axe, for example, but you like the perk on your old axe, you can transfer over that perk to the new stuff. Now, from what I could see, you couldn't transfer a perk that was on your axe to a perk on gloves, for example. It did seem to have to go from one type of item to the other type of item, so only boots to boots, ring to ring, for example. In order to do so, you would need a small amount of gold, and you would need something called an ember shard or an ember core, something like that. These didn't seem to be too difficult to come by. I was just killing various like elites or named enemies. There was this guy in a cave that fairly consistently spawned. Every time I killed him, he would drop one of these ember cores or ember shards, and you could use that as a currency to do the perk transfer. So yeah, nice system. And then finally, there was one of the NPC that would let you enchant or upgrade items, so you could make your axe +1, +2. I believe it went all the way up to +7. Now to do this, there are various NPC stores around the map. I was able to find 3 of them. They will sell you 5 of a green shard and 5 of a blue shard every day, to a total of 15. The shards cost 2,000 gold each, so it was going to cost 10,000 gold, 30,000 gold if I want to buy it the full stock, and again, it had a daily reset limit. And then you take these shards to the NPC and you can upgrade your green or blue items. If you wanted to upgrade purples, I didn't see any shards for that one yet. Maybe they're available like later on in the map. From what I could see, there wasn't a chance to fail the upgrades, but it would require increasingly more shards the higher up you move in the plus level. Now, whether you can transfer this plus from one item to another, also something that I didn't see. But yeah, plussing up an item would increase its equipment score, it would increase the stats, it would increase the damage or the armor. So definitely something you want to do when you find yourself a good item. But again, whether you can transfer this to another item like you could in something like Throne and Liberty, I'm not entirely sure. Now, unfortunately, I don't seem to have any footage of this, but one other final upgrade you can make to your gear was socketing. We talked about this a little bit in the intro. There are gems that you can find. For me, they were mostly just given as drops. And these gems you can equip in your weapons, armor, and jewelry. So far, the only gems that I was able to find would increase the abilities that I have. So I would have Sever on the battle axe, for example, and it would say this improves your Sever's level by 1. So it basically just put 1 point into the Sever upgrade for me. Whether there are other gems that, you know, give upgrades outside of just weapon mastery skill tree points effectively, I don't know. They could also only be socketed into certain items as well. So the Sever upgrade could only go into a battle axe, for example. So yeah, I don't have too much experience with the system, but it does exist. I just sadly don't have too much footage of it because, again, this was only happening from like level 15 onwards. Finally, on the topic of gearing and getting good items, we have bosses, we have the bounty board system, we have dungeons. All of these I found to be pretty rewarding as a way to get good gear. Open world bosses were sometimes hit and miss. I would often just get like a crappy gray or green item, but on luckier instances, I would sometimes get some blues. Never saw a purple actually drop though, and certainly didn't see any legendaries, but I don't believe those are available until like level 20 or 25 plus anyway. There are time dungeons, which are solo dungeons you can also do in group. They will give you a chest at the end. From here, I was able to get gems and recipes, and I think I got 1 purple item from those as well, so definitely doing time dungeons. These come in at a couple different levels, so making sure you're doing one appropriate for your level, or rather the max level that you can currently clear, is something I would recommend doing. And the most rewarding piece of content that I found was the bounty board system. So in the first town, you'll see a bounty board. From here, you can take bounties, kill the enemy, bring back its head, and then that will get you bounty tokens, and it will get you a reputation increase. And once your reputation is high enough, you can move to the next tier of bounty missions. These are also really good for experience, by the way. And once you have enough bounty tokens, you can talk to the NPC, and you can buy stuff from the shop. And in here, there were purple accessories. And this was of note because from what I could see, there was no way to craft anything above green tier accessories. So if you want purple rings, amulets, and a belt, this was the only place I was currently able to find them in the preview. So yeah, definitely worth picking up some bounty missions, completing those for the XP gain and also for the tokens. It was a really good source of gear in the preview, and I assume it would be the same in the beta. With all that being said, friends, I think that covers progression and gathering and crafting and how to make your character stronger and all the systems that go into it. It's likely that I did miss something here. Again, I only get a chance to play for 20 hours, and it does look like there is a lot of moving parts to this game. Let me know what you guys are thinking about the systems within Chrono Odyssey. I've seen some people a little bit iffy on the plus system, you know, +1, +2, +3. I know that's a very typical trope in Korean MMOs, and how exactly they'll go about giving you those shards, again, remains to be seen. But this was not supposed to be either a criticism or praise on the systems, more just talking about how they work. So let me know what you guys are thinking. in the comments down below if you have anything else you'd like to see in Chrono Odyssey. I'm going to be playing a tremendous amount of the game from the 20th of June through to the 22nd. The plan is to be streaming most hours of the day. So if you want to see some gameplay, you can see it over there. If you want a chance at a key, if we have key giveaways, we'll also be doing that on the stream as well. And yeah, if you just want to see generally more Chrono Odyssey content, including I do have an upcoming video where I want to talk about stuff that I don't like about the game, because I know some people just want blood. I will be talking about the negatives so far from what I've seen in Chrono Odyssey as well. So yeah, subscribe for information, the good, the bad, and the ugly on this game, and I'll catch you guys all in the next video.